I'm gonna find. And I'm gonna kill every last one of them.
Whoa there, Ellie. Why so serious? If there's one thing that Naughty Dog has proven to us in the most recent footage for The Last of Us Part 2, it's this. The charming, innocent 14-year-old that laughs at dick jokes and flinches at the sight of blood is long gone, replaced by a savage, confident killer that is willing to go to any length to ensure the safety of her family and friends. Ellie has always been more than capable of taking care of herself, but the story information and trailers that we have seen so far clearly show an Ellie that has evolved. The last 5 years have not been kind to her. She has been pushed to the edge by this post-apocalyptic world, and she is ready to push back. But what could have motivated Ellie to turn over this new, murderous leaf? What defining character event could have pushed her to fully embrace the dark side and complete her transition into the most dangerous 19-year-old of all time? That, ladies and gentlemen, is the question that we are going to attempt to answer today. You see, I've analyzed every inch of every trailer, interview, article, and gameplay snippet, scouring the evidence and scraping for clues to find something, anything that might give us a hint at Joel and Ellie's future. And you know what? I think I might have found something. After hours of research, I have come up with a theory behind what I think will motivate Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2, using only the trailers, interviews, and marketing content that Naughty Dog has made publicly available so far. And that might even include a few tantalizing slip-ups coming straight from the game's writers themselves. I have spent days compiling all of this information, and today I am ready to share that evidence with you. I'm KindleFire22, welcome to NoFlex Gaming, and welcome to my theory on who dies in The Last of Us Part 2. And of course, massive spoiler warning for anyone that doesn't want any story beats to one of the biggest gaming sequels in history exposed to them early. So first, let's set some ground rules. Of course, this hypothesis is just a theory, and as with any theory, there are a few assumptions that have to be made to make the theory work. Rule number 1. We are assuming that a singular event caused Ellie's streak of vengeance. Dozens of things could have combined to make Ellie go on a murderous rampage, but for the purpose of this video, let's assume that she is motivated by one thing, and assumes that her transition to savage is immediate. Second, let's assume that this singular event was a death, and not just any death, but the death of someone that has a close, personal connection to Ellie. Alright, now with that out of the way, let's talk about who I don't think is the victim. Number 1, Dina. I've seen many people arguing that Dina's demise is the cause of Ellie's rage, but here's my 2 cents. It's way too obvious. We talked about this in our last video, but it begs mentioning again. Let's take a second look at a pivotal moment in The Last of Us Part 2's most recent trailer.
Please stop! No!
Every panel and every interview since this trailer's release has hinted that Dina dies in this scene. And if you believe that, I have a timeshare in Florida that I would love to sell you as well. The reasoning is simple. Why would they tell us such an important story secret so early on in the game's marketing? Imagine if Indy had hinted at Sarah's death in The Last of Us Part 1's trailer. That would have been horrible, and it would have tarnished one of the most impactful scenes in video game history. But even more telling, Naughty Dog has been very careful to never actually say that Dina dies. All they did was lay out a set of obvious clues, and like Dominic Cobb's victims in Inceptions, our assumptions and pre-existing ideas filled in the rest. Don't be fooled. Dina's chance of death is 20%. Alright, well then, who else could it be? The next obvious choice would be Joel. But let's get that out of the way quickly. Again, I think that answer is way too easy and too inconsistent with the stated goals of the story. Neil Druckmann has always told us that this is a Joel and Ellie story. They are the deuteragonists. They share the tale 50-50, and neither is more important to the story than the other.
But I will say, right, so much of The Last of Us is about this duo and their dynamic and how they are together and how they play together. And I will say Joel plays a major part of this game as well.
So I don't think it's sensible for one of them to die early on enough in the game to motivate a major part of the plot. Is it possible that Joel could die and still be very important to the story? Yes. Is it possible that Joel dies before the game reaches its conclusion? Definitely. But I, for one, do not believe that Joel's death will be a driving force behind this story's plot. Joel's chance of death is 30%. Well then, if not Joel and not Dina, then who could it be? Who else is close enough to Ellie to turn her into such a murderous wreck? Who else's death could have a strong enough effect on the audience and the characters to ignite the story and get the plot moving? Well, I believe that the key victim that dies in this scene is none other than Tommy. I know what you're thinking. Tommy? Tommy isn't close enough to Ellie. Why would Ellie be attached to Tommy? They barely know each other, right? Well, that's true. Ellie and Tommy didn't seem to have that much of a relationship when we saw them last. But remember, 5 years have passed since the end of the first game, and that is a lot of time for relationships to be forged and existing ones to be expanded upon. Let's listen to a quick quote from none other than Neil Druckmann himself, speaking during an E3 Last of Us panel in 2018.
I mean, the big question on everyone's lips is Joel, right? So he's missing, but he's mentioned. He's called Ellie's old man. So where is Joel at this point in time?
It's called suspense, Lucy.
Well, first of all, you're assuming they're talking about, there could be some other father figure that came in. It's Joel. It's Joel. It could be some other father figure that came in the 4 years. It could be some other father figure that came in the 4 years.
That's interesting. And let's listen to another clip from Halley Gross, co-writer on The Last of Us Part 2, speaking with Gamer Braves.
At first blush, this incredibly scary, evil group that Ellie has to negotiate as she's trying to, at least in the demo you saw, go after Tommy. Go after Tommy. Go after Tommy.
I don't ever remember it being publicly mentioned that Ellie and Dina were off looking for Tommy during their adventure. Could it be that this was a slip of the tongue, exposing a secret that the public was not supposed to hear yet? Here's my theory. Picture this. The game opens at Tommy's camp. Life is peaceful. Violence is to a minimum, and for the first time in years, people have been able to take a deep breath and approach some semblance of normality. And that peace, that wealth, that prosperity makes Tommy's camp a target. What if Tommy and his camp are attacked by one of the two warring factions, looking for resources or more land that they can capture? A fight breaks loose, and Tommy's group loses, which results in the leader, Tommy himself, getting kidnapped. Ellie and other scouters go looking for Tommy and succeed, but another conflict ensues, and as a message to Ellie and her fellow group members, Tommy is killed. No! I think this theory makes a lot of sense. Again, Naughty Dog has already told us that Joel and Ellie are estranged and no longer see each other very often. What better way to bring the two of them back together than for them to lose the one person that means as much to them as they do to each other? Sure, Tommy and Joel have had their moments, but he's still his brother. And besides, Tommy's death fits perfectly into the themes of the story so far. Tommy is a strong character, but we have never seen him get his hands dirty. He's a character that loves and cares for everyone, and in the words of Bill,
and in this world, that sort of shit's good for one thing, getting you killed.
That's why I believe that Tommy's chance of death is 75%. Anyway, that's our theory. It's certainly not facts, just an educated guess from a fan that is desperate to know more about a story that he loves. Anything can happen in this game, and we're just excited that Naughty Dog has given us even more content to chew on leading up to the game's release. There aren't many games out there with stories and characters that are fleshed out enough to motivate such an intense story discussion, and we think that is certainly a great thing. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Disagree? Have a better idea? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for stopping by the channel, and we hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, we hope you consider subscribing. We post live streams and edited content every week. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. NFG out.